In this video, we're going to examine the roots of a quadratic equation. In other words, determine what type of roots it's going to have. So here's the quadratic equation. It has this form here: ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Second degree, a is the coefficient of the squared term, b is the coefficient of the x, and c is the other constant. And for the discussion of this video, I'm going to assume that a, b, and c are real numbers. A cannot be 0, because if a is 0, then I don't have a quadratic, I have a linear equation, first degree. I only have bx plus c equal to 0, that's first degree. So in order to guarantee that I have a quadratic equation, I have to have a not equal to 0. Now, quadratic equations can be solved by factoring. They can be solved by a method of completing the square. And of course, they can be solved using the quadratic formula, which is what I have right here. Obviously, you can also do it several methods to solve it on a graphing calculator. Now let's look at the quadratic formula to begin with. So if you have the quadratic equation in this form, one side is 0. You can find the roots or solution of the equation by plugging in the values of a, b, and c into this formula. So the value of x will equal to the negative of whatever b is, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, where again you take the values of b and a and c from the equation, and this is divided by twice the value of a. Now, for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to let b squared minus 4ac, that is the radicand, the expression under the radical, I'm going to let that equal to d, and that's called the discriminant. So here's the way it works. You plug in the numbers into this formula, and notice that if this value b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, you only have one solution, because all you're going to have is minus b plus or minus 0 divided by the value of 2a. So if b squared minus 4ac is 0, you have just one solution. If b squared minus 4ac is not 0, then you're going to have two solutions, because you have minus b plus this expression over the 2a, and minus b minus the value of that expression over 2a. You have your two solutions. Now, more specifically, we're going to look at this. Like I said, if the b squared minus 4ac is positive, there are two real solutions. Okay, minus b plus the radical value divided by 2a, and minus b minus the radical value divided by the 2a. And like I said before, if the b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, there is one real solution. Okay, as I pointed out. Now, if it turns out that this b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then you have no real solution. The solutions are complex or imaginary. Complex number is going to have the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers, and this I here is the imaginary unit, and that's equal to the square root of -1. And remember, the square root of a negative number is not a real number, and that's why we call this an imaginary number. But this is what we have, the form a plus bi. So let me clear this. And I've got some examples here. So notice x squared minus x minus 6. If I were to take the values a would be 1, b, that's the coefficient of the x, is -1, and c is minus 6. So if I plug it into this discriminant formula, I would have minus 1 squared minus 4(1) times minus 6. So this comes out to 25. That's a positive. So I would have two real solutions, which are right here, 3 and negative 2. Okay, and I could easily get those also by plugging it into the formula. But the first way you want to use, or the first method you want to use, because it's the easiest one, if the equation factors. So notice the left side factors into x minus 3 and x plus 2. That's equal to 0. So if I set each factor equal to 0, I get x is equal to 3, x is equal to negative 2. Now in this discussion, I'm just interested really in finding out what type of solutions we can have. Do we have real solutions? Do we have imaginary solutions? And how many do we have? Do we have 1? Do we have 2? So in this case we have 2, which is indicated by this value here. Okay, so if you're just interested in determining the type of solution the quadratic equation will have, you can do it just by finding the value of the discriminant. If the value of the discriminant is positive, which in this case it is 25, then you have 2. And then you have 3 and negative 2. Notice in the second example, the a is 1, the b is negative 4, and the c is 4. So I plug those into this formula, b squared minus 4ac. I got negative 4 squared is 16, and I have minus 4 times 1, that's a, times 4, that's c. If I do this calculation, that gives me 0. Okay, so this tells me then, based on part B here, that I should have one real solution. Okay, and actually in this case, the solution that I have is 2. Again, as I did in the first one, I can factor that out. X squared minus 4x plus 4 factors into x minus 2. And x minus 2. So if I set those factors equal to 0, I get x equal to 2, x equal to 2. So it's a repeated solution, so that counts as 1. Okay. Now, on the third one, a is 1, b is 1, c is 1. So if I plug that into that formula, I have 1 squared minus 4, and then a is 1, c is 1. I get a negative 3. So the discriminant is negative, so based on what we discuss, there's no real solution, but we have 2 imaginary solutions, and I have them here. This one obviously does not factor, so if I'm going to solve it without the use of a calculator, I'd have to use the quadratic formula as one method. So if I use the quadratic formula, then I would have x is equal to, and again, this is if I wanted to solve it. I'm just showing you what it comes out to, but the main thing I want to show you is you can determine the type of solution that you're going to have by simply computing the discriminant. But in this case, it would be minus b, and b is 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is calculated right here. Okay, so that'd be negative 3. Over 2 times a is 1, so 2 times I get this. And then, of course, you simplify this. The square root of negative 3 can be written as the square root of 3 times the square root of negative 1. But the square root of negative 1, by definition, is I. And that's how I got this solution here. Okay. So again, you can determine what type of solution you're going to have for a quadratic by simply determining the value of the discriminant. If it's positive, you have two real solutions. If it's equal to 0, you have one real solution. If it's negative, there are no real solutions, but you have two imaginary solutions. And again, that's assuming the A and the B and the C are real numbers. Okay, those statements apply if A, B, and C are real. If A turns out to be an imaginary number, this is not going to be true in general. Okay, so there you have it. The next video coming up is going to be on the normal curve and probabilities. So look for that. If it's not in this channel, it could be in my Tony Pineda channel. So again, you can just go to my introductory video and click on the link. I have it there. So either on this channel here or on my Tony Pineda channel. We'll see you in the next video.